And so, yeah, just imagine going into work one day. And your boss comes up to you shortly after your arrival, overlooks your hair, and tells you that is an unnatural color that you are wearing in your hair, and it's against our policy and our guidelines to let you wear an unnatural hair color at this job site. So you're going to have to go home, take your hair down, and when you're finished, you can come back to work. Now, you just got extensions in your hair, and those extensions that you got in your hair cost you quite a bit of money, because these are braided in hair extensions, and so the hair color that you have in your hair actually is natural to you, because your hair actually can highlight itself to that color if you're out in the sun for a specific amount of time in the summertime. You get natural highlights that color because it's in your genetic makeup that your hair naturally highlights in the summertime. So that color actually is natural to you. And so sometimes when you get highlights in your hair, you will get the color that it naturally highlights to on its own. In my case, because of my genetics, my natural hair color is a medium brown. And so if I'm out in the summertime for a specific amount of time, if I'm out in the sun a lot, my hair can get highlights of a golden blonde, sometimes streaks of platinum, okay? So that is kind of, in a sense, it is natural to me, because, as a child, my hair was light sandy brown with platinum blonde streaks in it. Okay, just a few, not very many, but it still was that color. And then as I got older, I would say after the age of 7, my hair started to darken tremendously. It darkened from a sandy brown color into a number 4. Okay, and then when it went into a number 4, by the time I was in my mid-20s, it had darkened more. So there were traces of 4 in it, and traces of dark brown in it. Now it's kind of going back to a 4. When I blow dry it out, it's more of a 4. Now that I'm getting older, it's kind of going back to how it was when I was a little younger. So my hair has differed in color tones throughout my life, along with my eye color. Because I was born with blue eyes. They stayed blue for a little while. And then, after a while, they changed to a light grayish color. And then, after a while, they changed to hazel green. And that's what color they are still. So my skin tone is more like Beyonce's skin tone. It's kind of like a combination between Rihanna and Beyonce. I'm like in between the two of them when it comes to skin tone. And my eye color is pretty much the same as Rihanna's, okay? Her eye color might be a little lighter, but where our eye color is pretty much the same, because I've seen her eyes up close in some of her photos. So Rihanna, throughout her career, she has had several different tones of blonde in her hair, okay, whether it's she's wearing wigs or extensions or whatever she puts in her hair, nobody has a problem with it, okay? It's almost kind of like second nature for light-skinned girls with green eyes to have tones of, or shades of blonde in their hair. Everybody knows that. That's nothing new here in the United States. Light-skinned girls with green eyes a lot of the times can have blonde highlights in their hair, and if they don't, sometimes they may put it in, okay? But because of their skin tone and their eye color, golden blonde and sometimes platinum looks very natural on them because they obviously have some type of European heritage going on somewhere in their DNA. In my case, my European heritage goes back to my great-grandparents. With the skin tone. Now, with the eye color, I'm not sure where I get that from because the green eyes run on both sides of my family. My father's side has had them. I had two aunts with green eyes, and then on my mother's side, several of my cousins, along with my mother, have green eyes. So they're very popular in my family line. So where I got them from could be either side of my family, either the mother side or the father side, okay? So that means they run very rampant in my family. So when you're not born and raised in this country and you're coming over here as a foreigner and you know nothing about Black African Americans and you don't really know that there are a lot of them over here in America that do have a mixed race heritage, then you really don't have a right to tell someone that they're not really supposed to be wearing blonde highlights because that's not natural to their hair. When, for one, if you're a foreigner, you haven't grown up over here in the United States. Number two, you come from a whole different culture where the bloodline is totally different from that of African Americans. And so how do you find it in your nature to come over here? The audacity, really. How do you find it in your heart or your soul to come over here and to tell an African American that you don't know anything about them? You don't know anything about their family. You don't know anything about their background, their culture. You don't even know, you can't even tell really from looking at them if they're half black or half white. Just because you might not think that they are does not mean that they're not. The whole thing is foreigners coming over here. A lot of them, especially those coming from Eastern countries, don't really know a whole lot about African Americans and our background. They might know about slavery. They don't have any idea about the race mixing that went on. Okay, not just back then, but even now today, even still today. They don't really have any idea that that goes on. And even if they do, they think that mixed race people look a certain way. Mixed race people today don't look the same as mixed race people did back when I was coming up. The biracials in this day and age, the ones that were born during the 1980s and thereafter, all the way into Generation X, they are more, they're more in the 75% range of white, 1/4 range of black mixture. And the reason why that is because a lot of African Americans are already in the 15% range of white. Okay, most African Americans, I would say 7 out of 10 of them have at least 15% European blood from the slavery days. Okay, and that's the dark-skinned ones. Okay, the more, when it starts going into the lighter shades of black, those African Americans that were born before the 1980s, like myself, okay, I was born in the late 60s, we are more in the, we lean more in the 25 to 35% range of European. Not from the slavery days. 15% of that is from the slavery days, and then there's another 15% that's from recent mixing within the last 3 or 4 generations, which means it could be your grandparents or your great-grandparents. Okay? It's not back during the slavery era. This is mixture that has gone on recently, within the last century or so. Okay, not 300 or 400 years ago, but just here recently, within the last century or so ago. So it could be your grandparents, it could be your great grandparents. Okay, so some of us are in the 25 to 35% range of European, like myself. My European bloodline is 37%. I just round it off and say 40. Okay, because give or take, it can kind of lean more towards the 40%, which is really what I look like, or it can lean more towards 35%. So 37 is closer to 40, but you can say it's closer to 35, but it's kind of in between. Okay, and from my features and the way I look, I would say I'm more closer to the 40% range. So the biracials of today lean more in the 75% range, anywhere from 55 to 65%. Okay, and some of them are even in the 75% range of white. So they look totally different than the mixed race people of my generation, okay, which we lean more in the 25 to 35%. The biracials in my generation were on a 50-50 mixture, which means 50% black, 50% white, okay? So they looked more like me, kind of, sort of, just a little more mixed. Not much, but they looked more like us. These biracials of today, the ones that were born in the mid-'80s and thereafter, all the way up into Generation X, they're more in the 65 to 75% range of white. So they look a whole lot more mixed than my generation, than Generation X and the baby boomer generation, okay? So what a lot of these foreigners are coming over here, when a lot of them come over here, they're more likely to see a lot of the younger biracials running around today. They're more, and because they look more in the 75% range, people see them and assume they're biracial when they are, but actually they're more than biracial. They're actually, I forget the name of it, but I forget what it's called, but they're more in the 75% range, and they represent, people call them biracials, but they're actually more mixed than that, okay? People like Vanessa Williams, the one that won for the Miss Black America, the first Miss Black USA, Vanessa Williams, she looks to me more biracial, and she's actually not. But for my generation, that's what the biracials looked more like. When I look at Vanessa Williams, she looks like your typical biracial person back in the Generation X era, okay? So those born in the late 60s up to the 1975, or 65 through 1975, that would be kind of more Generation X. Those biracials looked more in the 50-50 range, okay? Today, those biracials, to people coming into the United States, they think that those are light-skinned black people, when actually they're biracial. They're more 50-50, okay? But the people that they see a lot, and they look obviously mixed, they think that is what biracials are supposed to look like, and that's not really a real biracial. Biracial to me means 50-50. Okay, like Obama. Obama is a true biracial person. Okay, African father, non-mixed African, 100% African father, white mother. That's a true biracial. Okay, 50-50. Biracial, not triracial. Okay, but biracial, not in the 75% range of white, 25% range of black, like a lot of them are today. Okay, so people that look like Vanessa Williams, and Suzette Charles, the one that took her place, I think, and Barack Obama. So you get my point. That's what real biracials people look like. And actually, Vanessa Williams is not biracial. She, like me, she has mixed race heritage. So I'm guessing she probably had a white grandmother somewhere, either on her mother's side or her father's side. If not grandparents, definitely great grandparents, because her eyes are actually blue. Okay, she is, oh my God, she is one of the most beautiful light-skinned black women I've ever seen. She's like your typical standard biracial looking woman, when actually her mixed race ancestry reaches farther back in her genes. I think it goes back to her great grandparents, like mine does, okay, on my father's side. But Vanessa Williams, her eyes are actually blue. And all this time I thought she had green eyes. No, her eyes are actually blue. They're like a blue-grayish color. And sometimes in her photos, they come off as looking green, but they're actually like a light grayish blue. Okay? And she gets her ancestry from her either grandparents or great-grandparents. Okay? Because she read her DNA, and she's got as much white in her as I have in me. So she's like in the 30% range, somewhere in there. Close to 40. So to me, as far as I'm concerned, people that are more in the 50-50 range, or people that have light-skinned black people like Vanessa Williams, where their European heritage goes a little further back to the great-grandparents, to me, those are the prettiest. I think, in my opinion, those are the prettiest mixed-race people, because they have just enough white in them to kind of lighten them up and soften their features, but they still look like they have an equal amount of white and black within them. To me, those are the prettiest ones. The biracials of today, they have too much white in them. And I'm not saying this to offend anyone, but to me, it's almost like the black is practically not even there. They are so light-skinned, and their hair is so straight. They don't even look like they're black. They just look like they have a hint of black in them. To me, Jennifer Bills looks more biracial than some of these biracials of Generation X. They're a little too white for me. It's almost like the black DNA is barely there. Okay, and it is, because they're in the 65 to 75% range of white. So the black is barely there. One more racial mixing with white people, and that black gene is gone with these Generation Zers. Okay, if they breed back into anything else, that little bit of black is 100% gone. Okay. One of my cousins, she has, I think, just as much mixed blood as I have in me, as I think maybe a little less European. She might be more in the 25% range or maybe 30% range mixture. But she has just a little less mixture in her than I have in me. However, her son came out. He's kind of light skinned, very handsome son. He goes and marries this Mexican girl. Okay, they have kids. Those kids look 100% Mexican. You can't even tell that the father is a light-skinned black man. Those kids look 100% Mexican. Now, I don't know if he figured that was going to happen or if that's what he wanted to happen. I don't know. But to me, that's kind of sad because you can't see none of our bloodline in those kids. My cousin has nice features. You could definitely tell she's black, but you can see that she's got something in her. Okay, because I think on her mother's side, there's probably some white somewhere in their heritage somewhere down the line, maybe a great-grandparent or something like that. But on her father's side, which is where she's related to me, she's part Mexican. Okay, she's about a quarter Mexican like I am. So with that little bit of Mexican in her, and then her son has less than her, if she's a quarter, then he's about an eighth, right? So he's about an eighth Mexican, and I don't know what his father, if his father was mixed or not, but his father is light-skinned. So he's more, as far as I know, he's more black than anything, but he's light-skinned, right? 1/8 Mexican, okay, very little. He goes and has kids with this Hispanic girl, and that 1/8 Mexican combined with her bloodline completely wiped out the black blood in her grandchildren. And she asked me, because when I went to her house, she showed me some pictures of them, and then she kind of looked at me like, well, what do you think? Well, they're cute kids, but you don't see that black blood is completely erased. And to me, that's kind of sad because her side of the bloodline is just gone. You just don't see it. It's just not there. And so when her grandkids grow up, if they marry, they're probably going to marry into the Mexican race because that's really what they look like. And so that's where you have it, where you'll have these Mexican kids probably marrying other Mexicans. And that's when you have that black grandmother in the closet type thing. Her, the grandmother is black, the grandchildren are mixed race, but you can't tell. And then they're going to keep her side of the bloodline hushed as they go through their life and marry into white or Hispanic. They're going to keep their grandmother's side of the bloodline secret and quiet. They're not going to, you know what I'm saying? You know how they do. They have a black grandmother in the closet and it stays hidden. They don't tell nobody. They just go on throughout their lives and hide all their photos and nobody knows that they have a black grandmother. You see what I'm saying? But anyways, getting back to the blonde hair thing. I kind of feel like, if you're a foreigner and you come over here to the United States, you don't really have a right to tell a black person, especially if they're light-skinned, because you don't know what's going on with their bloodline. You don't know if they're light-skinned, okay, or if they're black and they have a straighter hair texture than normal, okay, you don't know what is going on with them. You don't know if they're biracial or if they have white grandparents. You don't know coming over here from another country. Even white people here in America don't really know what an African American might be, because to them we're all black. Okay, to white people we're all black. They don't give a shit if you're 75% white. As far as they're concerned, you're 100% black. Okay, but foreigners coming over here, they don't know shit about what went on during the slavery days. They don't really know about our history. So for them to come over here to have the nerve to tell an African American that's light-skinned with green eyes, okay, that blonde hair is not natural to you, so you're going to have to go home, take those extensions out of your hair, and then come back to work, whenever you take that blonde out of your hair, because that blonde hair color is not natural to black people. Now, this guy, like I said, from Turkey, doesn't know a goddamn thing about my bloodline, about my heritage, doesn't know a damn thing. I have a great-grandfather on my father's side that's Danish, okay, and I have another great-grandfather on my father's side that's from Britain. Both of them married black women. So my great-grandmother, my grandmother on my father's side is biracial. Her parents, on her mother's side, her parents, her mother was black and her father was British. Okay, so she's half white and half black. The man she married, which was my grandfather, his parents one was Danish, my great-grandfather, and then my great-grandmother on my grandfather's side was black. So my grandmother married a mulatto man, or biracial, who was also half black and half white. They got together, got married, had my father, and so to me, my father is basically biracial. You come from two biracial parents, they create a biracial child. Then my father turns around, marries my mother, she's biracial. So how is it that you're going to tell me, you're going to come over here from Turkey, you don't know a thing about my bloodline, and you're going to come over here and tell me that I don't have a right to wear blonde hair when you don't know what blood runs through my veins? I could have had a white father. How the hell would he know? Practically, I do. Because my father's bloodline extends back to Europe. Okay? On the men's side. On the women's side, it extends to the Caribbean, which basically goes back to Africa. But still, we have a very mixed bloodline. Okay, my father, in so many words, was biracial, coming from two biracial parents that go back to the great-grandparents. Okay, white men teamed up with black women. started my family line. So how is it you're going to come over here to the United States and tell a light-skinned black person with green eyes or blue or gray or amber that blonde hair doesn't run in their bloodline? So I told him, I said, I'm going to keep these braids in my hair because I am of mixed race heritage. I'm not taking these braids out. And I told him, I am light-skinned, I have green eyes, I am part white. So I'm not going to take these braids out of my hair at all. If you fire me, I'm going to sue this company, basically. And I walked away from him and went on back to work. And he didn't say another word to me, and I didn't say another word to him, and we both he just let it go because he probably spoke to somebody about it, and they probably told him, she can sue you. She can. And it wasn't really his company. He was just managing it. But he dropped it because I think he knew that I could have had a case. You know, you're a foreigner. You don't have any right to come over here and tell a black American that we are not part white, basically. I mean, you don't know if blonde hair is natural to me. How would you know? Have you seen me as a kid? Have you, did you know that I was born with blue eyes? Do you know that I have white heritage in me? You don't have any right to tell me anything about any type of hair shade that I might wear. And it never dawned on him that my eyes were green. It never dawned on him that I was light-skinned, because these fuckers just see that you are black and that's it. They don't really see it light-colored eyes. That doesn't, it doesn't really dawn on them that you might have light-colored eyes. They don't even see that. The first thing they see is that you're a lot darker than they are. Okay? And so to him, I'm just black. It never dawned on him that I might be mixed race. It never dawned on him that my father could be white. Okay? Even though my father is biracial, but still, it goes back to his my great-grandparents. It goes back to his grandparents. Okay, both of them, traces back to Europe. And so how are you going to sit here and tell me that I can't wear blonde hair when if I'm 37% white, then my father is obviously in the 50% range of white. Okay, or maybe a little less. Okay, definitely my grandparents are in the 50, probably 65% white. My grandmother had hair all the way down her back. I didn't get that kind of hair. I don't know why it skipped to me. She had that biracial hair. I didn't get it. I got the eyes instead. Okay. But, and I pretty much, let them know I'm of mixed race heritage. I'm not taking nothing out of my hair. And now I think, because it's been such an uproar throughout the United States, because white people have freely mixed their blood with African Americans, going all the way back to the slavery days, and they are continuously doing it to this very day. Every other white woman, almost, or so it seems, has a black child. So with all this race mixing going on, there's no way that you can't stand here and tell a light-skinned black person, even if they're not light-skinned, you still don't know what's running through their veins, because there are a lot of darker-skinned biracials that you would never know that they're biracial until you see their parents. Okay, we have that going on as well. You would never know that some of these biracials are actually half white and half black until you actually see their appearance, because some of them are still very dark skinned, so you would never know. So to tell a black person blonde hair is not in your bloodline, it's not natural to you, that's a whole lot of fucking nerve. That's a whole lot of nerve. And there's been lawsuits that have come up in different companies. I think Hooters was one of them. One of the managers, I think, told one of his employees that she had to go home and either change her hair color, because I think she went home and dyed her hair and came to work with a golden blonde shade of blonde in her hair, and he told her to go home and change her hair color to a natural hair color or she would lose her job, and she sued Hooters for that. So there's been different cases throughout the United States. With all this race mixing going on, nobody has a right to tell any African American, because we are so mixed up. Okay, we are very, very mixed up because white women can't seem to keep their hands off of black men. That's pretty much how this goes, okay? So we are very, 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 each generation we're getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, because black men and white women can't seem to keep their hands off of each other, and so we keep getting lighter and lighter and lighter. By the year 2050, we're not going to have that much black at all. It's barely going to be there, barely there. So that's it's just something. It's really, really, not only are we very mixed, we are mixed with white, and then there's a lot of Native American mixture in there as well. A lot of African Americans have, and myself included, Aboriginal DNA, okay? And on my end, that goes to my grandfather, whose heritage comes from Mexico. Ooh, my nose. Sorry, guys. My nose is acted up. So, for people to come over here and you're not even from this country, that's a whole lot of nerve. But that's this guy is a white Turkish guy. His skin was very pale and he had blue eyes. So to me, he's just as good as European. He leans more towards the white Turkish DNA, the Europe, more so than the Eastern bloodline that they get from their Arab side. Because I think Turkey, I think they're a mixture of Asian and white, Asian and European, and that Asian blood is mostly Arab blood. It's like a mixture of Arabian and white. He leans more towards the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, but he was bald-headed, but he's very, very white on the white side of Turkey, okay? He had blue eyes and very white skin, so to me, he's just as good as white. But, yeah, he had the nerve, to tell me that I need to go home and take my braids out, and then I could come back to work, because natural hair or blonde hair is not natural. It's not a natural color, and that, it's not company policy. He was basically trying to tell me, you're black, so you need to go home and take that blonde hair out of your head, in so many words, and my whole thing is, no, I'm not taking a damn thing out, because white people keep mixing up with black people. You're not stopping anytime soon. You've created all these raise kids all over the goddamn planet. You're not stopping, and as long as you keep creating us, we have a right to wear any shade of hair color we want to wear. White, red, as long as it's a natural color, okay, we can wear it, just like white people can. You know, there's white women with blonde hair that they dye their hair light brown because they don't want blonde hair. It's rare, but some of them will dye their hair like a light sandy brown, or they'll go and get darker highlights put in. That's not natural, so why can they get away with it? Some of them will even dye their hair black. Nobody's telling them that that's not a natural hair color for white people. So, do you see how this works? How white people can do a lot of things and get away with it, but then if a black person does it, it's a problem. You see how this works? But people like myself, you know, have to get out here and fight for our rights, you know, and there's other people also fighting, you know, so we're the ones that speak up. We're the ones that say, hey, wait a minute, you know, you can't do that because, you know, this, and this. As far as I'm concerned, as long as you're out here race mixing, you don't have a right to stand here and tell me that I can't wear blonde hair, or if I went and got blue eye contacts, that's none of your business either. You know, that's none of your business either. Because my eyes were blue when I was a baby. Then they turned, you know, as I got older, they turned hazel. They're more like a hazel green now. If I want to wear blue contacts, I can wear them. If I want to wear dark brown eye contacts, that's not natural. So, but I bet you if I went to work with brown eye contacts in, he wouldn't say a thing. You know, he's no longer my manager now. That was several years ago.